Okay, we're ready to start with our first keynote speaker. You need to settle down. I never met our first keynote speaker, but I was in the same room to hear her speak. This was one of an Empire STEM Learning Network's gatherings held in Albany a few years ago. She was amazing, and she really gets it in spades. I just have to tell you, you're in for a treat. Dr. Terenzio is the president of SUNY Cobleskill, and I told her earlier I have a world of respect for that institution, for all the things that they do, what they offer their students across the board. It's just an amazing, amazing college. So I'm not going to linger up here and take up some of her time, but her talk is on STEM to STEAM. Times 2 or 2, yeah, to the second power.
Yes, sir.
So here we go. Dr. Marian Terenzio, the president of SUNY Cobleskill.
Oh boy, I don't know if I can, I don't even remember exactly what I said. Actually, I do, way back when. I want to start off by saying I'm going to be starting my 9th year at Cobleskill. And when I took the job, I read the job description very carefully because I wanted to make sure, did it say anything about agriculture? And it didn't. Because I'm a music therapist psychologist. So I am running an ag school. And the beauty of that, though, is when, do I get it? Yes. I understood the arts and humanities and the understanding of science and STEM from my little girl. I'm an organist, so talk about understanding science and organ physics is amazing. So I think it's been in my soul. But I also, talking to some of you, I may change what I'm going to share because the other thing I didn't say, and I'm going to say it now, so just so you're aware of that. I am one of the members of the Blue Ribbon Commission for grad measures, and I know my SED colleagues are over here, so I just asked them if I may say that because we are literally trying to figure out the next steps with STEM and all disciplines and how to better align what's happening in K-12 with higher ed and career. So I got the permission to say that, right? So if there's any other comments or discussion on that, I just wanted to share that that's part of what I've been up to lately. That I could spend, 10 hours on that alone, but I won't. I am going to talk about STEM to STEAM. Oh, hold on. Okay, this is funny. Where'd he go? He took my notes. All right. Chuck, I think you have my notes with you. That's okay. Maybe I don't need them. They were sitting right here. Okay, no problem. Did you pick up a bunch of paper? Okay, fine. Don't worry about it. Let's see how well I do. No problem. Don't worry about it. However, let's get back to this, all right? So one thing that is quite compelling for me to even think about STEM to STEAM to the second power is the food insecurity issue in the world, as you know. There are going to be 11 billion people who we have to feed, and we have an unsustainable agriculture system to do so. The degradation of the ecosystems alone are telling us that, and we have to do more in terms of sustaining productivity in general. And then the executive order by our governor that all state agencies have to adopt a sustainable decarbonization program, in some cases by 2030, in other cases by 2050. So SUNY Cobleskill has been in the throes of this, working side by side actually with a lot of state agencies and looking at these pieces. So much so, how I've been envisioning STEM is literally through these steps. Now the STAAM is partly what I talked about a few years ago to which Chuck was referring. And the second A is, agriculture. Agriculture, right? Now I'm talking about STEAM to the second power. It is becoming crystal clear, particularly through the lens of agriculture, the importance of elevating the foundational elements of STEAM. So what I also want to share with you, and please, let's be interactive, whatever you want to talk about, because there's a lot here and I can go either way. But what's critically important, why I'm talking to you today, is for this institute, the INRAE, which is France's institute of 16 universities that came together 3 years ago to work on the issues of, through agriculture, on research and sustainability. This is the top 10 research institutes in the world dedicated to agriculture, STEM, and humanities to figure out the next steps for agriculture. The other institution is Agreenium, which is doing the same work. This has a little bit of a different focus because it's bringing in public policy and the communities to figure out agriculture and STEM. Why do I share these with you? Because I have the distinct privilege of going there in October as a Fulbright scholar. Thank you. Yeah. And France was interested in what I had to offer, as well as the State Department of the United States, because my project is looking at replicating these two institutes in New York State through SUNY and K-12 is what I want to add. Part of the issue that France is having, first of all, France is way ahead of many countries in this area. If you look up even the INRAE, you will be blown away on their principles and what they're doing. It is the paradigm for the future. And I think New York State and SUNY can replicate this. So the chancellor's aware of it, the governor's aware of it, and so is the Commissioner of Agriculture. So I am gathering as many institutions as I can, including obviously Cornell. I want to talk to K-12 partners. I already mentioned it to the SED folks. This is our opportunity to elevate not just STEM, but the importance of what New York State can do in the area of agriculture and sustaining the world. Now, let me ask you, what sciences do you see in agriculture already? I said it'd be interactive, yeah. Mathematics, biology, engineering, chemistry. I'm making my point, right? I've always said that agriculture can be the umbrella of STEM, and why not using this in New York State to replicate what's going on in France? So I will be meeting with representatives of all these institutions. One I'm very interested in is Bordeaux. The vineyards and the vintners of the Bordeaux Valley want to talk, so I thought, well, I'll only go if I can sample. Otherwise, I don't want to talk to you. So why are they important too? And again, I don't have to go through all these slides. I want interaction if there's something you're seeing up here, because this is really opening this up to you all to say, what else would you like us to talk about when we look at what's going to happen in France? What are the messages we can talk about STEM in New York State? But these two institutions use the idea of eco-health to expand what I refer to as STEM through agriculture, hence STEAM to the second degree. What is also interesting is these institutes are challenging the traditional way of looking at particularly the biomedical approaches. They are calling for the work of the humanities and the arts and social sciences into their work already. And it's really cool what they're doing, particularly through the eco-health model. How many are familiar with the eco-health model? Oh, great, I love it. Okay, you will be now, very soon. It is the health and well-being that is the result of a complex interaction between humans and our environment. They're looking more and more at this, particularly the pandemic and zoononics. I never heard of zoononics until 3 years ago. Anybody know what the term is? Yeah. It is? Correct. She's got it. And as we do more urbanization and take away agricultural lands and get closer to the animals, you're going to see more zoononic issues. And that's exactly what the pandemic started to be. So it's an interesting field, and it's a scary field in my mind. So these institutes are saying, why not the eco-health model? What is a part of the principles of eco-health? You can see it right here. The systems thinking, transdisciplinarity, which SUNY Cobleskill already practices. Transdisciplinarity is multi-disciplines, so it is your interdisciplinarity, but it adds a community as part of the research. So we have the Institute for Rural Vitality, and everything we do in that institute involves community. So we have a riparian forest on campus right now where we're going to plant 10,000 trees over 10 years with the community to mitigate the erosion of the Schoharie Creek. We know if we can take care of it on our campus and how to use willows and all kinds of trees. Who knew that willows really suck up the water to help keep a bank in place? I did not know that. That we will have an impact down the river to help Schoharie Creek. We know the erosion's bad because our faculty went out with a 4-foot rod, stuck it into the bank, came and checked it 3 months later, and 3.5 feet of the rod was exposed already. Exactly. These are the kinds of ways that our ag tech schools must think, and I think right down through K-12. Participation, gender, social equity, these are all parts of the human ecology health model to say we have to look at all populations. And I love the challenge to knowledge to action and sustainability. The eco-health model is, I would say in the last 10 years is becoming more and more into its own. And like I said, the INRAE in particular has taken it on as its paradigm. I'm proud to say that I see SUNY Cobleskill in a lot of what we're doing. We're one of only 3 agriculture innovation centers in the country. And the innovation we're doing in terms of helping entrepreneurs do sustainable product development to market, I think is really very, very cool. As a matter of fact, Hunts Point, anybody know what Hunts Point is? Yeah, right? Big, right? Huge. The largest distributor in the United States, if not the world, is talking to us. Do you know where most of our fruits and vegetables come from? Not upstate New York. Arizona, California, New Mexico. What is the largest methane emitter right now in the country? No. Transportation. So, right. So to get the fruits and vegetables from California to Arizona to New York State, we are causing such, and then add the cows and then add everything else that agriculture produces, we are causing quite a carbon, I said methane, so I'm using carbon footprint. Why is methane worse than carbon? Anybody know? Now remember, I'm not a scientist, I'm a musician. Say it again. Correct. So New York State, and actually Biden in his Climate Act, is looking more at methane numbers than carbon numbers for that reason. 8 times worse. Methane is 8 times worse than carbon in the footprint. So Hunts Point is talking to Cobleskill to say, how do we get upstate farmers' fruits and vegetables down to New York City? So we're looking at ways to do that. One of them is we're hoping to have a zero net carbon, actually we're hoping negative carbon if we put the right digester in, greenhouse on the campus within the next year that we can have farmers from upstate New York use the packaging center we're going to put in place with the grow center to try to get fruits and vegetables down to the city, because by the time, you know why avocados turn brown when you buy them? Because they're frozen. They fast freeze them coming from California, so by the time we get them and they defrost, they're brown. A tomato normally would cost you 29 cents if you buy it in California, and it ends up to be $2.29 in New York State. So I know we have a lot to do with STEM, and I want to hear more about that. But I think the power of STEM with agriculture, as you'll see in a minute, and the EcoHealth model is something we all should take into consideration, particularly as we're trying to find students to go into that. There's food engineering, by the way, program. There's food systems engineering program. Any program you ask, I will tell you, through agriculture, we have it. Mathematics, we have ag precision programs and the use of drones to help, and tractors that drive themselves. I was on a tractor with a student, and he said, let your hands go. This was 10 years ago. Tractor's doing fine. 14 different satellites were guiding the tractor. And then the computer went off. And I'm at the wheel. So I grabbed the wheel, and then I was able to keep it pretty straight, but you can imagine the precision of a tractor. So when you looked from the satellite, it went like from here, big out, and then I got it right back on track. But those kinds of technologies and use of mathematics and next generation farm equipment is critically important. So what I am suggesting is, why don't we talk about STEAM to the second power? The STEM foundation is necessary. 65 to 70% of our students take science at the college. 65 to 70% of our students take science. Your traditional science, plus then the ag science on top of that. I am suggesting that we have to talk about sustainability, transdisciplinarity, ecosystem, agriculture, and multinational. I think that's the space, and that's what I'm going to France with, to talk about what New York State can do in these fields. And then I define them, again, why? Because we have to figure out how to feed 11 billion people. Now, if you go to our greenhouses, our tomato plants are grown in a pot this big, and each plant grows to 40 feet tall. So these stalks, we produce 70,000 tomato plants a year through hydroponics, and we don't use pesticides. So these are the kinds of techniques we have to figure out, particularly where people don't have water. And the other thing I'm finding for STEM, and you could tell me if this is true or not, the field of STEM in general needs to really understand public policy and how public policy has to be part of the thinking. We had the National Intelligence Council come to the campus a couple years before COVID, talking about climate change. And they talked to my fishery and wildlife faculty, who stood up and said, you're missing the point. And this was a report that had 2,700 experts already talk about it. And he explained, he said, you're doing policy talk down here where there are no fish there anymore, because fish have migrated up to us because it's too hot. So they brought him to Washington, D.C., and he spoke to the analysts across the country to say, think differently. Use science. Watch the trends. And that's happening more and more with our faculty because we are understanding the power of STEM, STEAM to the second power, because of those two right there. Policy. It would be very interesting to have more of the STEM thinking folks in policy. So I'm also talking about the kinds of fields our students can go into. So there's your traditional STEM, and there's your what I'm saying, STEAM. STEM stays as the undergird for where we need to go next as not just a society of the United States, but as world citizens. So when I talk about sustainability, that's what I'm talking about. I'm going to go quickly through this. Are there any comments? You're very quiet. You're teachers. I've never seen quiet teachers. You're listening intently. Okay. All right. I'm hoping that you're hearing things you've not heard of before. That's what I like. So when I talk about sustainability, and these are also from theories, okay? Each of these, if you ever want to see the paper I have, there are research entities behind this. I never present, particularly in this field, without understanding what experts are saying, because I'm not an expert in this field. I'm an expert now in how to run a fantastic ag tech school and to elevate the work we're doing. So just to let you know that this is not, in my mind, pie in the sky. The steam to the second power is my thinking of how to do all of this. But when you talk about sustainability, that's what you're talking about. For example, commodity equity. We have to stop talking as agriculture as a commodity. And where is the equity in terms of also doing agriculture? And the role of urban ag. Even so there's your social theory and humanities. Place and purpose. We are killing rural areas. And you'll see in a minute when I talk about ecosystem services. We have to figure out, as farmland is being eaten up, what are we doing? But that's not even the answer, just making sure to keep farmland. Because the kind of agriculture and conventional agriculture we're doing is killing the earth. Agriculture is one of the worst polluters, and yet it's probably the best solution to saving this world. So that's sustainability. Transdisciplinarity or transdisciplinary, there's your public health. We must do more in understanding politics. Otherwise, the work we're doing in STEM, and you're talking about that today, right? How do we make sure and infuse in New York State the power of STEM and its underlying principles in terms of anything we do? As a musician, again, understanding the organ, I'm an organist, was fantastic, all on science. The biodiversity conversation, critically important. Agriculture transitions, that means agriculture, as it's been transitioning through the decades, what does it have to look like today? What kind of transition has to happen? And it's that new paradigm switch that I'm trying to talk about right now. And action research. That's how I would define transdisciplinary. The E is ecosystem. Ecosystem. I think you all know what an ecosystem is and understand its processes and power. I'm adding the idea, and others are, in terms of fulfilling human life. You're going to see a model way at the end that the Netherlands is doing on eco-health, where the ecosystem piece says human agency and quality of life. That's why these are so important. That's why the eco-health model embraces what I'm sharing with you today. And then here's the ecosystem services. It started out as when you go and enjoy rural America, you get services back. It's also the services of not just farming, but timberland, right? And what's happening with timberland. We have been taking out of the ecosystem services and not understanding how we're killing it and having to give it back, and how rural America is suffering for that. So what I would also add to this is understanding the ecosystem services in urban areas and how ecosystems in urban agriculture can make a difference. And the importance of the natural sciences and economics coming together and talking more and understanding. Again, I think the STEM fields in this policy piece is tremendously huge. And then agriculture, obviously. I put up agro-ecosystem. Why? Because that's one of the things we have to think about. We have to think about the globalized food energy market and system. Upstate New York has to think about that. We all have to think about that. Again, the rural landscape for agricultural production, place and purpose, again, for the rural communities and your community livelihood. That's part of agriculture. Another part of agriculture is what I referred to earlier with the transition, what it has to take into account when it transitions again. And what does agriculture look like? It's not conventional farming. Everybody, gets upset with Monsanto. I don't think people know the half of what Monsanto is or does. And trying to understand the impact of agriculture policy is amazing. By the way, Farm Bill. What % of the Farm Bill is on SNAP program alone, Supplemental Food Insecurity? What % of the Farm Bill is on feeding America? Anybody want to get a guess? 85%. 85% of the Farm Bill has to do with feeding insecure human beings. It, 100%. The programs in the SNAP program and other programs in the Farm Bill reach the populations, particularly areas where you have 100% of kids on free lunch and free breakfast, right? Look up the school districts that are 100%, you'd be shocked, 100% on food substance. Albany is one of them. Central Albany, Central Troy. Look, because those numbers are there, where there are kids who cannot get, who are in food insecure deserts in the United States. Also, I'll tell you one other thing. I'm just wetting your whistle because we're not going to have time to get to it. Farmer markets are not helpful. I'm just going to leave it like that. Farmer markets are not helpful. Yeah. Did it wet you? Yeah. Multinational, the M. If we don't get together as a global community to figure this out, we're not going anywhere. But you know what's the most important factor up there? The culture. Regenerative agriculture is something coming to be. How many know about regenerative agriculture? Okay. It is using the land in a biodiverse way. If anybody watched the movie The Little Big Farm? If you haven't, you must. It is, and it's a true story. It's a very cool movie because everything I'm saying you're going to get immediately. So how culture plays a role, particularly in regenerative farming. So we have 37,000 farmers in New York State. 65% of them will be retiring within the next few years. The land that's being taken away, I can't remember the number, but it's unbelievable. And we have many farmers from the BIPOC community who would like to take over, but are not being allowed. So that's yet another social environment issue we have to deal with. So, but that's again why I want to go to France, because France is very interested in international collaboration and participation.
I was just curious, was all this developed to ultimately flow into the United Nations Sustainability Development?
We're getting to that. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Part of why the INRAE came into being, because it's not 2030 anymore, actually, they're going to increase it, was a call to the UN Sustainability Agenda. Very good, correct. And you're going to see a model that comes from that, from the UN Environmental Program, what things are happening. So we're going to define the new paradigms for STEAM, not just the multinational and the way the culture plays a role. We also have to preserve the cultural identities. But one part we all have to play in this is don't have a tomato in February. Don't expect to have all the fruits that we're used to now out of season. I know we all want that, but I have to tell you, it is not helping the sustainability of the environment. So just, I didn't know that, right? And I did a talk on food insecurity with a group of very privileged people, and said food insecurity is right around the corner from you. And they didn't get that because they're not understanding the enormity and the connections we all have to this. We all have to be STEM oriented. Pick up a newspaper. Every day there's something about agriculture in it, or food systems, or a problem. And Frank and I were just talking earlier to say, and Chuck too, saying, to be a good citizen these days, you got to understand this stuff. You got to understand the science implications and not be afraid of it. I actually hate when people say, yeah, I'm not good at math. Well, then we don't say that about spelling. We get embarrassed. But it's okay to say, I'm not good at math. Why is that okay? Why is that okay? Sorry, I had to get off my tangent on that. So, UNESCO. One thing UNESCO is saying, and these are really cool paradigms that you can grab. Society, environment, culture, and economy must be a part of the STEM, STEAM revolution. That's what they're saying. I'm looking at my time, and I'm already over. I apologize. Here are the formulas that I've been referring to that we'll be looking at when I go to France. The social, ecological dynamics, your landscape, your human impact, your human well-being. That's where the scientists at the INRAE is looking at. And they're looking for sustainable, cross-functional science, social science solutions. That's their motto. And it's based on the eco-health. And to what? To help with not just the health of the ecosystem, but land management. That's agriculture, land management. Here are the ones that are under operation right now. So the millennial assessment is the United Nations, and that's what they're doing, the multivariate state, the quality of life, value added. Science, STEM-based. TEEB is another one, and this is their paradigm. And when you look at it, it has everything we've just been talking about. And TEEB's from the Netherlands. This is a way of assessing quality of life and STEM. And this is the UN's one, the millennial one. I'm sorry you can't see them very well, but everyone has ecosystem, human well-being. Ecosystem, human well-being. I ran through that pretty fast. The one other thing I want to add, I'm very proud of the college. We have an internationally patented gasifier that went to, actually down to the Pentagon for the White House to see as one of the two technologies of the future to mitigate garbage. It can take garbage of all kind and turn it into clean energy. So that's not the only solution. We need the more proactive solutions that also, we all have a role in this. And I think STEM and where we need to go next is critical. The only other thing I want to leave you with is they are looking in France for exchange with students from K-12 as well. I want to create a pipeline where they are coming here and the New York students are going there in those two institutes, let alone the other institutes that I have learned about. So my time is up. I'm sorry I don't entertain any questions, and I hope I kept up to my reputation, but I appreciate your time. But are there any questions? We started a little late. Yeah. I think the world crisis is if people, I actually think Blue Ribbon is trying to figure that out. I'm pretty proud to be a part of that group. I think it's also the hands-on approach, the learning, and not to be afraid of the CTE kind of model that should be expanded in more schools. I think it's going to take time, but we have to figure out, we can't use the excuse it's too hard, it's too complex. But if we show the power of STEM in its broadest way, like STEAM to the second power, I think that would help. I think parents are waiting for this. I don't think it's the society itself slowing it down. I think it's other things. It's not the best answer what you're looking for, but it's time, and I think a crisis may help. I do think the governor's Executive Order 22, you should read it. You may find more in there. There's a lot in there. Biden's law with community-based pieces, I do think STEM should look more into community, politics, and understanding the culture and what STEM brings. I think that's an opportunity you probably could do more with. So be bold, be different. That's what happened to SUNY Cobleskill, and now when they talk about ag, they go Cornell and Cobleskill. And when I called Cornell, that I told them I'm going for the Fulbright, they're like, can we come? So there you go. Yeah. Thank you.
we've been trying to get Dr. Terenzio to come and speak for about 3 years. And isn't she amazing? Such an important leader in STEAM and STEM to the second power. And we are so lucky to have you.
Thank you.
And in deepest appreciation for your talk today.
Thank you.
And we're glad we've got it recorded because we can always revisit it, and others can too.
Yep. Oh,
This is for you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Mary Margaret, where are you? Thank you also.
Oh, I was wondering if you were here.